Hi, I'm Mafalda Freitas. I'm a 37-year-old woman, white, with long brown hair and brown eyes. I'm in a workspace with a lot of light, and behind me I have a structure with a lot of fabric samples.
I'm Jessica Orkin. I'm a 46-year-old woman, white. I have long brown hair, brown eyes, brown glasses. And behind me, there's a bookcase with lots of books in Portuguese and in English.
Hi, I'm Paulo Pisano, a Caucasian male. I have dark hair, brown eyes, wearing a polo shirt, and I have a very boring background, just with a white wall behind me and white blinders.
Hi, I'm Steven. I see that I'm nearly the only one without any hair, or what is left is white, and also a white beard. I'm 60 years old. Behind me there's a drawing of Cappella Maggiore somewhere in Italy, and I'm Caucasian.
Hi, my name is Tim Leberecht. I'm all blue eyes, blue background, blue shirt, blonde hair, not much of it left. I'm 49 years old, white Caucasian. Oh, and there's a blue curtain behind me.
All right, and welcome to the House of Beautiful Business conversation at Rock in Rio Humanorama. So, bom dia, boa tarde a todos. Bem-vindos à Mashup Conversation da House of Beautiful Business aqui no Rock in Rio Humanorama. O meu nome é Mafalda Freitas e eu sou a Partnership Lead da House of Beautiful Business. E hoje connosco temos 3 convidados muito especiais que vão certamente garantir uma conversa animada e inspirada sobre Beautiful Business, negócios bonitos. O que é Beautiful Business, porque é que os negócios bonitos importam e como torná-los reais. Para abrir esta nossa conversa, vamos ouvir do nosso cofundador Tim Leberecht. Obrigada por estarem connosco. And Tim, the stage is all yours.
Obrigado, Mafalda. Thank you all for joining, and I'm not going to take up too much of the time, but I wanted to introduce you to the idea of beautiful business before we introduce our panel and our amazing guests here today. So we're in a really interesting moment right now. The pandemic has disrupted many of the conventional business paradigms, processes, and practices. And as we are slowly returning to work, the question is, do we also want to return to business as usual? What is it that we want to keep, and what do we want to change? For many of us, I believe the pandemic has made very clear that business as usual is no longer working. So for one, there's the extraction of resources. One of the main pillars of capitalism, you could argue, is, at least as we knew it, that has caused the climate crisis. It has also caused a mental health crisis. We know that only 1/3 of all employees worldwide are fully engaged at work, according to the annual Gallup survey. Anxiety, stress, depression, and burnout levels are at an all-time high. Trust in business and business leaders is at an all-time low. We know that political polarization is rampant, fueled by growing social inequality. And then add to that the disruption that is caused by exponential technology, AI, blockchain, robotics. We're seeing a shift here from technology focused on efficiency and optimization to increasingly intelligent technology that can actually create and generate, creating new jobs, but also threatening many of them. We are realizing that the bottom line and GDP alone are not sufficient when it comes to human and planetary flourishing. So in light of all this, we've grown aware of the limitations of traditional business models and practices and management and workplace cultures. We do indeed need new visions, new paradigms, new practices, and they will not come from business books and business schools alone, but rather from the economics, tech, science, the humanities, and the arts, all living under one roof. Enter the House of Beautiful Business. And our mission with the House of Beautiful Business is to inspire and equip leaders to reinvent their organizations and themselves so that they can lead the shift from business as usual to a business that is more beautiful. Now, I know this sounds kind of lofty to you. What is beautiful business exactly? Whenever we get that question, we like to answer with a quote by the Portuguese writer Fernando Pessoa. Beauty is what does not exist. And likewise, beautiful business is everything we desire and are left wanting. Beautiful business is everything business as usual is not, or not yet. So beautiful business is soft and tender when business as usual is hard and harsh. Beautiful business is fluid and flexible when business as usual is slow moving and rigid. It's melancholic when business as usual is forced optimism. It's poetic when business as usual is explicit and numbers oriented. It's ecological when business as usual is purely economical, and it's deep when business as usual is efficient. And it also means asking beautiful questions rather than having all the answers. Now, you can pursue beautiful business on 3 levels: the societal level, the organizational level, and the personal level. On the societal policy level, we explore concepts such as universal basic income, the 4-day work week, more fluid, non-binary identities, and a whole new awareness for social injustice. On the organizational level, we explore concepts such as networked organizations, platform cooperatives, self-organized organizations, and other forms of workplace cultures that foster intimacy and allow for more complexity. And on the personal level, we explore making well-being, physical and mental health, the center of our careers, not just material status and power. We explore concepts such as regenerative leadership and the connection between new work and inner work, between being mindful about planetary resources and mindful about our very own. And with the House of Beautiful Business, we want to instigate and drive that change from business as usual to business that is beautiful. Since our launch in 2017, the house has grown into a global community of more than 10,000 people worldwide, and 3 main activities. First, we curate, design, and produce transformative events and experiences featuring the most radically interesting thinkers and leaders we can find, 3 of whom we have with us here today. Second, we work as a think tank and do consulting work for organizations from BCG to Google to Salesforce.com, Grupo Ageas, SAP, and many other organizations. And then third, we recently launched a digital platform that allows teams and individuals to enter into a membership program, an annual membership, which we call House Residency, a year-long transformation and learning journey. So in closing, we can use this moment, this critical juncture as we're struggling through this pandemic. And we can try to go back to how things were before COVID, back to the basics, so to speak, when concepts such as purpose, human work culture, sustainability, and social justice were compelling as long as business could afford them. Or we can use this moment to double down on these concepts. We can use it to fundamentally reimagine business, moving from beauty as a luxury to beauty as a critical factor and ingredient of a more human business world. We want to challenge the status quo and reinvent the role of business in society, how we run our organizations and how we lead our work lives personally. So we have a choice at this moment in time. You have a choice. How difficult, though, of a choice is it? What does this idea of beautiful business mean for you in your everyday work life? Where and how do you begin? These are some of the questions that we want to discuss with our guests today. All of them are really blessed with imagination and aspiration, but they're also each confronted with the constraints of everyday business, the practical constraints and shareholder expectations and so forth.
Muito obrigada, Tim. Always very inspiring. So it is now my greatest pleasure to welcome and to introduce our 3 amazing guests who are not only good friends of the house, but also, as Tim mentioned, real ambassadors and pioneers in pushing the beautiful business movement forward. So today with us, we have Jessica Orkin, CEO of SY Partners, a one-of-a-kind consulting firm that, as they say, fights for a future in which humanity and business performance are equally essential, working with Fortune 500 and influential companies and organizations such as Google, Starbucks, Facebook, and the Obama Foundation. Braekeveldt, CEO of Grupo Ageas Portugal, and a Portuguese hallmark name when it comes to humanizing business and bringing beauty to the shop floor. And Paulo Pisano, Chief People Officer at Booking.com and former Chief People Officer at Galp, well known as a thought leader and innovative change maker in the talent development space. All three of you are longtime friends with the house and longtime partners, and we are delighted to have you here. Thank you very much for being with us today. And Jessica, to kick off the conversation, I will start by asking you, you've heard Tim talk about this idea of beautiful business and the choices that we can make. How does this idea resonate with you? And working with these Fortune 500 companies, how do you feel that it can actually be made real to them? And how is the SY Partners tackling this and acting on it?
Thank you. So when I first heard of beautiful business, the House of Beautiful Business and this exploration of it had the effect on me of stopping me in my tracks. And I think that is one of the gifts that Tim and all of you at the house are actually giving those of us in business. It is a pattern interrupter. The language of beauty paired with the language of business forces us to actually stop, take, and say, can a business be beautiful? For a business to be beautiful? And it's giving language to what SYP has been doing for over 20 years, which is bringing humanity, purpose, and an exploration of the really big questions around what is the role of business and how can business act in service of increasing humanity and increasing performance, and see those not in opposition, but actually one reinforcing the other. So I think the House are breaking the language of business school, your language of KPIs, you are also sleep of business as usual, and forcing us to go deeper and invite to go deeper. So a few things, because I am a fan and lover of Pessoa. If beauty is what does not yet exist, I actually think the role of us and the role of all of us who are building businesses, shaping businesses, and guiding people, our responsibility is actually to manifest in reality that which does not yet exist. And that is why I personally am so passionate about doing the work of bringing beauty, bringing it into business, because businesses have an outsized impact at all of the levels that Tim was mentioning, at the level of societal impact, at the level of organizational impact, at the level of personal impact. So more beautiful businesses means more people who are more themselves, more fully enlivened, organizations that are actually able to bring to bear their vision, their intention, ultimately a society that is working better. I want to suggest 4 things very briefly that I'm seeing in our work with Fortune 500, really large companies who are struggling. They recognize that business is no longer sufficient, that it must change, and that the future is going to look very different than the past. And I would suggest this is as big as the shift from fossil renewable energy. Look at that. The change that is going to happen in businesses to more multi-constituent stakeholder environment, and really embrace that and embrace bringing in the humanity. How businesses operate, for whom, with whom, is going to shift in radical ways. So 4 things. A beautiful business, what are they up to? 1, they recognize the interdependence and interconnectedness of their organization. They're not going at it alone. They see that they're connected. 2, they create more than they take. Full stop. 3, they're to be as beautiful on the inside as on the outside. There's tension on the outside, but I think now what we're seeing is the incredible intention to how to build beauty on the inside. And 4, at their best, they expand our sense of what is possible. And I'm delighted to hear Paulo and Stephen on this as well, because they're 2 leaders who are doing extraordinary things in their own businesses.
Thank you, Jessica. Maybe let's actually move on to you, Stephen, and hear how the idea of beautiful business, how does that resonate with you at Grupo Agias? how do you make sure that it's not just sort of a privileged perspective of a few, but actually reaches everybody, in your workforce? How do you make that an inclusive phenomenon? How do you scale it, basically? How do you mobilize an organization like Grupo Aegea so that everybody has access to these ideas and is inspired to embrace them?
Well, maybe first for everybody who is listening, I mean, you have to know that Aegeas and myself, I'm working in one of the most exciting, passionate business lines that you can have in the world, which is insurance. This is, don't start laughing now. I mean, we are, of course, in the business of models, of actuarial people, of robotics. And since long, we and that's where I met Paulo, actually, when we were partners of setting up Singularity University, which was for one side of the brain. But since all these years within Aegeas Portugal, we have been saying AI is not there for cost efficiency. AI is not there to reduce. AI is there only with one purpose, to bring more emotions into business. Robotics should bring more emotions into our business. And so for a long time, we have been looking for what would be there to look after the other side of the brain. That's when, Tim, we had a discussion. And when we listened, we said of the House of Beautiful Business, that's it. And so first, what we did in our organization, this is not something that comes overnight. It's like watching a rose blossom. You look at it, you don't see actually that it's moving, but gradually there's a flower there. And that's how we do it in our company as well. I mean, we first went to the House of Beautiful Business with a couple of people. Then we had 10 ambassadors. Then we had 100 ambassadors. Now we have a specific manager of beautiful business into our organization to not only look how to be there in a caring way for our employees, but also how to transmit this caring that we have for our employees towards our customers, so that this way of doing beautiful business, it is reflected on the relationship we also have with our customers. I'm convinced that doing business in a beautiful way is completely not opposite to capitalism. This goes hand in hand with making more profits, with doing investments, but do it in a way where people see that you really care about them, that it becomes part of the DNA of all your employees, that it is on their minds when they do things, when they have new projects, when they have new products, when they go to the customer, that they say, how can I surprise my customer? How can we surprise our employees in a very nice, caring, beautiful way? And I think this is the way it's not there for the happy few. Of course, as a CEO, you have to walk the talk. You have to set the example that you care about people. And I honestly believe that any CEO or people in leading positions, if they don't love people, I think it's very difficult to be leading people. So you really have to care about them. And this fact of doing the business in a beautiful way is just a normality that comes into it in the way we'll have to deal with the business in the future, in my opinion.
Thank you, Stephen. I mean, many powerful statements. One in particular, robotics are there to bring more emotions into business. That's quite a statement. And maybe before we pursue that further, let's also turn it over to you, Paulo, because you're in an industry where emotions are very much at the heart. Travel.
Absolutely. Tim, where do you want me to expand on?
Paulo, I think I would ask you, as a leader in this talent development area and in tourism in particular, traveling in particular, what do you think are the skills that we need to develop in order to make all of these that Stephen and Jessica were just talking about real? How can we make beautiful business real, and how can we learn the right skills, or how can we teach the right skills, in your opinion?
That's the $1 million question, as they say, right? I mean, and it's interesting because when I think about skills, I'm wondering if that's what we need to get better at, right? Because, if I think, okay, beautiful business to me evokes things like interpersonal skills, listening more effectively, seeing things in a more holistic or a more systemic way, right? Things that Jessica alluded to as well. So that we can then understand the effect of the things we do in the world around us. But the more I think about it and the more conversations I've engaged in the last few years around this, I think it's really perhaps more focused on mindsets than on skills, right? So ways of seeing the world, ways of being in the world, right? It's interesting when we talk about mindsets, we don't talk as much about developing mindsets as we do for skills, as we talk about broadening or changing or evolving mindsets. And by mindset, by the way, I mean the lens through which we see the world around us, right? How do we interpret it? How do we make sense of the world around us? And how do we interact with the world around us? And I think, kind of beautiful business is for me, business that is more balanced, that is more sustainable, that is more human, right? Very much aligned with what Tim was describing in the beginning. So for me, in order to nourish those qualities in our business, I think we first need to become more aware of how we see the world around us. We have to become better observers of the world around us, of ourselves, of our teams, how our business interacts with the world, how we interact with our colleagues. It goes back to the point on interdependency that Jessica alluded to.
Yeah, when you look at all these issues, right, that the businesses are becoming more conscious of and act on them that you described earlier. So there's the climate crisis, becoming more sustainable businesses. There's diversity, equity, and inclusion, changing social norms, big cultural change. There's giving back to the community, social responsibility overall as a business. If you observe the work that you've done over the past, a decade or so or longer with SY Partners, many people then accuse organizations of purpose washing and greenwashing. If you could draw the line, what is really top of mind for Fortune 500 leaders? Where are they really serious in terms of these issues? And where do you see the greatest, risk of rhetoric only and lip service, but not enough action?
Yeah, well, there was a survey out earlier this week, which says that 64% of all US bays are currently looking for another job. So if CEO, 64% plus or minus of your employees are either looking for a job or considering it. That completely changed the game of who is a business serving. It is not just shareholders. It is not just to deliver profit. Whether or not you conceptually buy into the idea of a beautiful business, actually the marketplace dynamics, the consumer dynamics, the general consciousness of the genders that are coming up are forcing the change. There are those who for many years, and we've had the incredible pleasure of working with them for years, there were the people who were out who really got, like Howard Schultz and Starbucks, the role of business is actually to impact out in the world. And you can do that, to Steve, you can do that while making money. You can do that in alignment with capitalism, that they are not actually opposed. And in fact, the constraints create more innovation, and you are able to couldn't see if you only look at it through one lens. Today, both between the marketplace for talent and then anybody who has children, if you yourself have been closing your ears on the environmental issue, it is impossible generations that are because they are looking at it and they are saying, hey, business leaders, hey, government officials, you got to get working on this. We are too far, and businesses are hearing it. And so there's now for the first time, I'm seeing a true conflation of some of the traditional business metrics and what is actually needed, a more of a humanity and planetary perspective.
Stephen, when it comes to that shift from business as usual to business as beautiful and how it reshapes or reinvents your workplace culture, what are the biggest obstacles? Besides a built-in organizational inertia, I guess, that is characteristic of any organization. But what are the obstacles? What are the fears you need to overcome?
I think it's time. Do we still have enough time to make the change? Because as Paulo was saying, it's a mindset. It's like in the same category as innovation. You don't need a department of innovation. It should be, you need it to start putting the seats all over, but it's everybody should be thinking about innovation in the head. Sustainability, it's not a department somewhere who is on the first floor looking at sustainability. It should be something which is everybody. And that's the same for doing the beautiful business. In addition, it's thinking ahead and asking the right questions, I believe. There's today, like Jessica is saying, nobody can deny what's happening with our world. Half of the world is flooded. The other half is burning. I mean, we just have to look outside. You just can see it. Now, I think that many should ask their questions. What will be my responsibility in the business 10 years from now? Will they not be able to accuse me or to sue me because I have not been changing my business over the next 10 years, and while today I knew what was happening with the world? So 10 years from now, you have to ask, what did I do today that 10 years from now people will say, these people, they took the right decisions, but others will not take these decisions, and 10 years from now, they might indeed be sued and saying, you neglected to take the necessary decisions. That's something which in every project and everything we're doing is coming also to the minds.
Thank you, Stephen. And Paulo, thinking about tough decisions and tough moments, when you first joined Booking.com, I believe you faced some difficult times, the pandemic, lots of companies went through rough times. Can you tell us a little bit about your story there, and how can we still make beautiful business even when facing adversity or difficulties and struggles?
Sure, Mafalda. I mean, I think difficult times is an understatement for most of us, right? During the time we faced last year. I joined Booking 2 weeks before we had to make the decision to shut down all the offices around the world, over 200 offices around the world, and send everyone to work from home, right? So like most of us had to do very early on, and all of us had to do over time. So Booking.com was affected like, most companies in travel and hospitality, right? Very deeply affected. Although we are a technology company primarily, right? We have been fundamentally focused on a mission that is to make it easier for everyone to experience the world, right? And so essentially, the mission is tied to the travel, leisure, discovery. And what we saw early in only in the crisis and throughout last year was our volumes dropped drastically, like they've never dropped before, right? So very quickly we had to move the whole organization around the world into crisis management, which then led to a significant restructure of the organization. And it was very hard for us because Booking is a company that has grown from strength to strength, over the 25 years that's been around. So it was effectively the first time we faced this level of crisis in the organization, and we had to do a restructure. But what I think we did right, and in a way that's really aligned with the values of the organization, is that we faced the uncertainty around this challenging period with a lot of proximity and a lot of communication with our people, and also fomenting that communication amongst our people, right? So constant reconnection to our values, what's important to us. Leadership and management made a consistent commitment to remain close, remain visible to the teams working remotely, to provide guidance, to provide support at all times, to encourage people to support each other, right? To take care of themselves, to leverage any resource that we had available. And we had many resources, from town halls, discussion groups, meditation apps, wellness courses, you name it. We were thinking about it, and not thinking just top down, but looking for insight, inspiration, ideas from our population, right? Massive communication through the internet, which I think really brought out, what was best from everyone, right? In many ways, it pulled us together and got us focused on our mission, right? First and foremost, to make sure we're supporting the organization through the crisis so that we can continue to deliver to partners and to customers. So I guess my take on that is that adversity can be, and often is, right, an invitation for companies and for people to reconnect with what's essential to them, what's really close to their values, right? And that gets people to think more about each other, about their well-being, about the impact they have on one another, which is very much linked to, what we've been talking about in terms of beautiful business.
Jessica, I wonder if you also can share some stories working closely with companies that have undergone massive transformations, were affected by the pandemic, and how they found beauty, in the face of adversity or the very ugly realities of the marketplace.
Yeah, I think there are countless, and I want to hold two things to be true at the same time. So I really agree with Paulo, which is adversity and crisis can actually be, it allows us to rip up the playbook and revisit anew and forward in the way that we want. I also want what we're talking about, particularly for existing companies, so not startups, but existing companies which have legacy systems, which have legacies, which have ways of doing things. This is hard. It is not, because you could have all the intention in the world, then you have decades and decades and decades of policies and processes and things that already exist, right? And the act of changing that is an act. It requires designing forward, but also recognizing the current state and holding both of those things. So none of us are saying this is, messy. I think what we have seen in both, many of our clients have done this and many other companies, is some examples of recognizing that the cult of productivity is, in fact, it is not results. And so we've seen many companies actually explore the 4-day work week. We have seen a deceleration of mental health. And so there are people really talking about within organizations, from CEO all the way through, their own struggles with mental health and where they are turning to for support, and companies are actually building support mechanisms. Seeing kind of a breakthrough of business as usual communications to an intimacy, particularly with B2C organizations, of just real commerce, and actually a focus on building community and building intimacy and building engagement versus marketing in the traditional ways.
Thank you, Jessica. It's wonderful insights from 3 different companies, 3 different contexts, 3 different countries, I think. It's amazing how time flies, but I still have one final question. You are 3 evangelists of this idea of beautiful business, and it showed. So I think my final question now, and I will start with you, Stephen, but it's really for all of you, is what would be one specific action, no matter how small, that on Monday our audience could take to start making real beautiful business?
I would say take off your jacket of egos. Firstly, remain very humble and thank people if you have to thank them. Be very, give thanks to people, appreciate people, what they're doing. Too much in companies, they find it as normal. We pay you a salary, so you have to do it. But that's not true, because they can go elsewhere. So thank people for what they're doing. Thank them that they work for your company, that they choose your company to work for. I think this is basics. And easy to do.
Very easy. Thank you. Jessica and Paulo, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I will also go to big but beautiful. The first is start with hello. So diving into meetings, when you're diving into stuff, start with hello. It is very simple, but it matters. That hello means, hi, human. I see you, human. You see me. We are not actually robots that are tasked. We are actually people that are working together doing something. And it creates for all the other stuff that we as people bring with us. And then the second, I know you said one, but the second is, and I feel very strongly about this, joy and play. Bring joy and play into the conversation. I think we're radically missing that right now, and make it fun, and we need to find the eros. And from that, innovation, creativity, performance, all this other stuff will flow.
I love both of your recommendations. I think they're kind of super simple and actionable. I was going to say, buy Steven's robot that will bring more emotion into the workplace as well whenever it's available, right? I'm not sure how practical that one will be. But if I were to add something, because I completely agree with it, with these 2 points, based on their simplicity, I think one thing to watch is again, I think we've all been invited to do this, but I'm pretty sure we're not doing enough of it, is also connect with what's really fundamental and important to you, right? And don't be afraid of engaging in those conversations around you. I think groups of people that are coming together and are clear on why they're coming together, right? Why, the purpose. I'm not talking about the lofty vision, but how does what I'm doing, where I'm spending most of my time and my energy, connects with what's truly important to me, or the same thing for a team. Engaging in that question as an individual or as a team or as an organization, I think can definitely move us kind of closer to what we talk about in Beautiful Business.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Steven. Thank you, Paulo. This has been amazing. Time flew by and we could go on for a lot longer, I know, but unfortunately our 40 minutes are coming to an end. So I want to thank you for bringing so much inspiration and for so openly sharing your views, your perspectives, your stories, and your own realities. I would also like to thank the Orkin Rio Innovation team and for organizing this wonderful Humanorama and inviting us to be here and spread the love and spread the word about beautiful business. Muito obrigada. And lastly, I thank you all for being here with us and for having joined this conversation. And we leave with an invitation. So if you want to continue exploring beautiful business, if you want to learn more about it, if you want to be in the place where all the conversations are taking place, you need to come to Concrete Love. Right, Tim?
Yeah, Concrete Love is the theme of our annual gathering of the House of Beautiful Business from October 29th through November 26th. Yes, you heard that right. It's a 4-week festival. The first 3 days will take place in Lisbon and online, and then the remaining 4 weeks, or a little bit less than 4 weeks, will be online only. The first part is titled Acts. Big ideas, some of which we heard today, that are reshaping the world, the business world, followed by 4 weeks of actions, very practical advice with experts, practitioners, and learnings about how we can take these ideas, some of them radical ideas, and actually make them applicable, relevant in your business, in your organization as soon as possible. I know that Jessica, Paulo, and Steven will be there, and we really hope, Mafalda and I, that you will be able to join us as well, either in Lisbon or online. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you all, Jessica, Paulo, Steven, and hope to see you in the House of Beautiful Business, full immersion. Bye.
Obrigada.
Wow, did we manage to actually close before time was up?